Hi guys, this is Crowded Tea again, and I am at the Earth SMP spawn, and we are still running through this thing. There is so much to go on around here. Something that players have been asking for is the auction house. And so right on over here, you would find the auction house. We can click on this guy, and it will come up. Okay, there's a couple of ways you can get there. You could do that. You can come over here, and you could do /AH. That will get me into the auction house. You can also go to your globe. Open up globe. There we go. And you can go to economy and open auction house. So you don't need to come down here to spawn to get into the auction house and see what's there. You can do it at the safety of your own base. And I'm going to tell you, that's probably the best bet. I hardly ever come down here to spawn and do this. And several players, you see how I got some players gathered around me? I cannot tell you how many times I've seen a player come up in the Discord and say, hey, I accidentally dropped my absolute favorite sword while I was at auction house at spawn, and some random player picked it up. And that could very easily happen. If I drop something right here, these guys could pick it up, and I'm never going to find it and probably never get it back. So I am going to tell you there's a few features in auction house that are kind of broken. So the first one I'm going to tell you about is the bid feature. And there's a couple of things on this server that makes you think that you could list a bid auction. If you come up here to this guide, to the game mode wiki, you can look at the auction house. Okay. And it says you can list your stuff for a fixed sale price, or you can start a bidding auction. And then the other place is if I do try to list an item, it's going to say up here at the top, if this is a bid listing, then put in a starting price. Now, you cannot do a bid auction. It is broken, or they have decided not to add it to the game, and quality control has not come in and taken this out. So you cannot make a bid auction for the auction house. Now, this is going to be a longer video. There is a lot involved in the auction house, so I would probably suggest you sit back, relax, and get yourself some popcorn, because there's going to be a lot to cover. The auction house is a great way to reach other players who don't know about your warp, and the nice thing with the auction house is you can actually see the details, and you're less likely to get scammed. So if you're trading something that is more on the pricey side, like for example, this one right here, and it's a gold version, it's going for 18 million. You typically want to go through the auction house, especially if you don't know who you are purchasing the item from, because you don't know what they're going to give you or if they are going to follow through. A lot of players choose to drop items. You drop and I drop, and we'll run and we'll go get it. But in doing that, I have seen some players where they will get your item and then they log off and you never get theirs, or things of that nature. Now, there are pros and cons to it. The upside is when you are purchasing things on an auction house, you can see exactly what you're getting, and you know that they're not going to scam you because you can purchase it right off the auction house. The bad thing is you run the risk of there being auction house snipers. So let's say I wanted this gold sword and I asked my friend, list the sword for 18 million and I will purchase it off the auction house from you. They're going to list it, and if somebody is watching the auction house, they can snipe it out from under you before you even have a chance to find the listing that you need to purchase your item. So you run that risk. Someone just came by and filled my inventory full of stuff. They like to do that at spawn. Okay, so let's get into a little bit of how to do things here on the auction house. If I wanted, let's say I want to list my book here. I can do /list item. And that brings me to this page. Now, we can put the price up here. I'm going to list it for $30,000. Select the amount. So let's say I had a stack of something. I could change this to 32, 16, whatever I wanted it to be, 5. How many minutes do you want the listing to last? This bar does not work. It doesn't matter if it is set for 5 or if I set it up here to 66. It's going to list the auction for 2 hours no matter what. This bar is broken. And then we click submit. Now I can go over here into the auction house and I can see there's my book right there that I listed for $30,000. If I don't want it listed, I can click on it and I can cancel it and I get my book back. The other thing I can do, let's list that book again. Now, if I go back into the auction house and I decide I don't want that book listed, I can come over here to your listing and it will show me all of the auctions that I have available. Currently, I do not have my Demi anymore. So I am only allowed to do one auction. And if I decide I don't like this auction or whatever, I can click cancel and get that book back. And that will cancel that auction. Now, something else I can do is I can go back into the auction house and claims. So if my listing expires, the 2 hours have gone up, my item is not sold, it does not go directly into my inventory when it does not sell. When the auction expires, it goes under claims, and I can hit claims, and I can claim a book that is expired. So we will claim that one. See, now my claims are empty, and if I look in my inventory, there's that book that I had. The other thing that I could do is I can have the item in my hand, and I can list it this way. I can go /auction house. I want to sell. And then I'm going to give it the price. And if it was a stack of something, but I only wanted to sell 10, I would give it the amount. So 10 of whatever's in the stack. This is an enchanted book. There is no stack. So I'm going to get rid of the amount because there is only the one. And we go back to the auction house. And there's my book listed for $30,000. Now, I am trying to use commands because it is a little bit faster. But if you forget any of your commands, you can always come in here and do /AH help. And it will bring up this menu here. And as you can see, it says Global Market, and it has a list of auction house commands. How to view the auction house, help, gems, sell price, so that you would know what commands to use when you're listing your item. Now it does say gems. Let's talk about that for a quick second. When I did my AFK video, I told you guys how to get some gems. Now, let's go back into the auction house, and I'm going to cancel that book just to show you something. Okay, so let's say I wanted to list this book for gems. I would come in here and I would go /AH sell. Now, this time I'm listing it for gems, not for money. and we're just going to say 5 gems. It won't let me sell it for gems anymore. I was able to do this the other day, but the gems is broken. So you can no longer sell things for gems. And all those commands for anything having to do with gems is broken. Let's try to do it a little different. So when you start getting into things like thousands, millions, billions, it's hard to keep track of the zeros. You don't have to type all of those zeros. So as you see, I've been listing my book for 30,000. That would be 30K. Let's see what happens when I do that. My book is now gone. Let's check that auction house. And there it is listed for 30,000. Okay, so you can use the K for thousands, you can use the M for millions, and a B for billions. What a lot of the auction house snipers like to do is they watch for you to mistype. So let's say this guy right here, for example, he's selling this dagger for 5 million. That's 6 zeros. What if he mistyped and he forgot a zero? Now his $5 million dagger is only going to be sold for 500,000. And the auction house snipers look for that kind of mistake, and they will purchase it for 500,000 and get a deal at a tenth of the price. So it is better to use the K or the M or the B in order to list it, especially if you're talking about high price items. Doesn't matter too much when it's a smaller item like this here, 5 diamonds for 5,000. Oh, if you're out, it's only $500. It's not going to be that big of a deal. But when you're talking high price items here, there's a huge difference between $5 million and $500,000. So to be on the safe side, probably want to use those letters. Yeah. One of the things that they were doing in the auction house, a lot of the scammers were doing, is that they would rename items. And one of the scams in the beginning was to take some leaves and they would rename it to something like Enderman Spawner. And at a quick glance in the auction house, some people thought it was spawners and they would buy it. So in order to fix that, they put a couple of things in place. We're going to take a look at the auction house, and we're going to look at some legitimate spawners. Okay, so here's a blaze spawner. If you look down at the bottom at the type, it says it's a spawner. If they were trying to scam you, the type would say oak leaves. Doesn't matter what they put on it for the name, or that the top says that it's an Enderman spawner. The bottom will tell you what that item really is. So as you see, as I go through here, this has been renamed, but it is a cookie. This is a netherite sword. We got some golden carrots. Okay, so even if they rename it, the bottom will tell me the type, at the bottom will tell me what it is. The only exception would be some of the god armor, because it is an alternate texture. And for the god armor, you want to be looking at other things. But for example, this moth dagger down at the bottom, it says it's a netherite sword. It's a retextured netherite sword. But I know that it is a valid item because I'm looking at the I can't even pronounce that. The Pierce 5 and the Silent Wing 4. Because it has those 2 enchantments on it, and it's telling me it's a reset vault item, I know that this is a legitimate moth dagger and not a netherite sword. So there's a couple of things you want to be looking at. In the beginning, they had a lot of scams in the auction house, and I have one of them, one of my one of my friends had bought and then given it to me. I renamed those leaves. They can just go hang out over there and despawn. And up here, I have a barrel that says Eternal Bundle. And they used to put the barrels on Auction House. And you think you're buying an entire Eternal Bundle when you bought the barrel. And really, you're just buying a renamed barrel. So that's one of the reasons why we now have to purchase for the rename perk, or you get it with Demigod, is it makes it easier for them to keep track of who's naming what and to try and deter the scammers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the auction house and I'm going to cancel my book and we are going to make one. Not every item has a texture in the auction house. And so what some people do is they will rename the item. You think you're getting what that name is, and that's not the case. So I happen to know that anvils don't have a texture. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. We're going to list this for whatever, 10,000 sounds good. Okay, so let's go back into the auction house. Now, you can see my anvil does not have a texture. And some people think that it's a glitch, when really it'll be a renamed item. So that top, they might name it Spawner. They might name it after some god item, like the Axolotl Shield, the Axolotl Scythe, something like that. And you think that's what you're getting, and that this is just a texture issue. Again, look down at the bottom at the type. It tells you that it's an anvil. So that is for sure what this item is. Certain items, this one you can see has a missing texture. It has the black and pink blocks. Some items don't even have a picture at all. I want to say like a bed doesn't have a picture. I cannot think of all of them off the top of my head. There's a handful of them that just flat out doesn't have a picture and it'll be an empty slot. That's another option. Again, they will rename it. You think you're buying, that's what you're buying because that's what the name says. Always look at the bottom from the type. That is coming from the server itself. I don't care what I named it. Looking to see if anything, see like this one right here, it's a cookie. It is renamed City Warp Rune Forge. I wouldn't know it's a cookie, except for the picture says it's a cookie and the type says it's a cookie. So I know that I am purchasing a cookie. The other thing that they have done to prevent scams, going back here into my barrel, is you can no longer put containers on the auction house. So I cannot list barrels, I cannot list chests, I cannot list ender chests. Shulker boxes cannot be listed. You can list shulker shells, and then the person can craft them, but the box itself you cannot list. A new one that they did is name tags. You cannot put a name tag on the auction house. And the reason being is they changed the bundle system. And if you look in your daily bundle over here, it looks like a name tag and it says hero rank. And what some people were doing is they were taking name tags. And of course, we're talking about like if you're a new player, you may not know that it's bolded the way it is. It has the green background with the white writing that says hero. They were just naming the name tags hero rank. And so people were purchasing them on the auction house thinking that they were going to get hero rank when really it was just a name tag named hero rank. So they have now removed the name tags from the auction house as well. One of the changes that I personally don't particularly care for is that when they redid the auction house, is they changed the description of the player heads. The player heads used to tell you what player this was, even though the default texture is Steve. It would tell me it was so-and-so's head. Now, here, I don't know whose player head it is unless the person came in and renamed it. And so I am buying basically a random player head. And I don't like that because I know some people on the server, they like to collect certain heads. Maybe if it's a staff member, or maybe it's that PvP player that not a lot of people have their head. They took that out. And now it just says player head. So when you're purchasing off the auction house, you don't know who you're getting. And I like to have details. Okay, so let's see. Back into the auction house. What have we not done? Let's find something I would like to buy. We got anything interesting in here? Got some shards, got some spawners. Oh, I don't have enough bells. Let's buy a bell. Okay, so I want to buy the bell. I come over here, I highlight it, I click on it. I will get a second menu that comes up, a confirm menu. And yes, I'm going to buy the bell. Now, if I back out of this and look in my inventory, there's the bell I purchased. Make sure you have room in your inventory for that auction that you are purchasing. Don't get too much in a rush when you are purchasing things off the auction house. I have seen some people complain about being scammed because they didn't read close enough what they were buying. They saw the price, they thought it was a vault item, they purchased it, and it wasn't a vault item because they didn't read, they didn't look for the set effects, they didn't look for the enchants that are on it. You want to be able to do that. And if you are scammed, they do try their best to not get people scammed. So if you are scammed, you can always create a ticket and put it in. Make sure you have some video or picture proof and that your Discord is linked, because that's where you're going to want to be putting your ticket in at. We are going to come back here to my Enderman spawner. And let's say I was for sure looking for spawners. So if we go into the auction house, I can also use the filter. So I'm looking for just spawners. I can go in there and I can click spawner. And it will tell me all of the spawners that are listed. So back to that person that was renaming those leaves and calling it an Enderman spawner, that would not show up here because the server knows that it is leaves. So I know that everything in here is a legit spawner. Now to shut that filter off, I can go back into filters and see how it tells me that spawners are selected. I can click it again and shut it off. So if I go in here, these are all the ways that I can filter it by. Potions. Okay, it'll tell me what potions are on the auction house. Let's shut that off. If I am looking for reset vault items, these are all of the items. See how it says axolotl armor set, reset vault item. Here's the set effect. Now, when I'm looking at reset vault items, I'm not looking at the type at the bottom. Like I said, they're retextured. So that leather leggings, I don't care about. I'm looking at the armor set, the reset vault item, and the enchants that are on it. But I know for a fact, all of these here are reset vault items. They're not going to, see how this one looks like a netherite sword? It's not going to be a renamed netherite sword. It's just the texture in the auction house. This is the actual vault item for The axolotl sword is what it looks like, even though it looks like a netherite sword in the auction house. I will get the axolotl sword if I purchased it. This one looks like a netherite hoe. It is retextured. It is a dragon staff. I know it's a dragon staff. It says that right below the name. So in case somebody decided they wanted to rename this, it also says that it is a reset vault item. So if they ever reset the server, this armor goes into a reset vault, and after the reset, I can pull this stuff out. So these are all the featured armors from the bundles. I call them bundles. They call them reset vault items. Sometimes I'll call it God armor because some of the first sets were all God armor, but it's all the same thing that I'm talking about. The moth, the axolotl, the lightning god. Okay, I'm talking about all those different bundles. I did talk about this a little bit, but hey, let's do this. Okay, so I got here myself some random item, a stackable item, 64 cobbled deep slate. We're going to put that on the auction house. I am going to list item just to show you how this works. List item. Sure, let's list it for 1,000, but I don't want to list the entire stack of 64. 32. And I'm only really doing this just to show you guys that you can choose different amounts. Okay, so I'm going to list 32 of them, and then I'm going to click submit, and it's going to tell me I already have an auction available, or an auction up, because I only have one auction slot. So let's go back into the auction house, look at my listing. Up there's my anvil. Let's take that off the auction house. Let's try this again. List that item. $1,000. 32. By the way, the minimum price you can list something for on the auction house is 1,000. And then submit. Now, if you look in my hotbar, I only have 32 cobbled deep slate. If we go back into the auction house, lots of back and forth. There's my deep slate right there. I have listed 32 of them for 1,000. At New Block City Mall, NBC Mall. And there was something over here that I wanted to show you. If you remember in my prior videos, I came over here and we took a look at these shops. And we were talking about how it says Echo Shard and they have a picture here. Now, to be quite honest, okay, I trust this shop, but let's say it's one of the more nefarious shops. It's one of the scammer shops. We're going to pretend, right? I actually came over here just because I knew that they had these shards. We're going to pretend. They can literally put anything in that picture. I don't know what I'm getting out of the shop. So this is one of the advantages with the auction house. If I go to the auction house, I can see exactly what I am getting. So if we're going to be talking about shards, this tells me what shard it is, what the percentage rate is, what it's applied to, what its enchants do. Do we have a filter for shards? I don't think so. No, just enchant books. Okay, let's go back. Let's see, do I have any unopened ones in the auction house? They all look like they are opened, but I can look at them and see what they are. Some people will sell unopened ones and you kind of take a little bit of a chance, but that's the break of the game. Like, I thought I saw some crystals on here. I did. Okay, so if you look up here, legendary random magic shard, it tells me for sure that is what it is. And even though the bottom says prismarine crystals, because it's a reused texture, I can see that it says contains a legendary magic shard with a random percentage. So I know for a fact that this is a legendary random magic shard, even if they renamed it. Whereas this here, legendary random magic shard, prismarine crystals, I'm not 100% sure what is in this chest. If I were to purchase it, it could be just normal prismarine crystals, or it could be a legendary random magic shard. I'm not sure. That's why you've got to be very careful to only purchase from people that you trust. We talked a little bit about not being able to put shulker boxes on the auction house and that you could only list shulker shells. Here's an example of it right here. 2 shulker shells for sale. You can buy the shells and create your own box, but you cannot sell the shulker box on the auction house. One of the other things you want to be looking at is, let's say you want to purchase a chunk hopper. Some people will scam by using almost all of the chunk hopper and then turning around and listing it, and there's literally seconds left on that hopper. So you go to place it, it's good for a few seconds, and then it is done. This one, I can look at it, and it tells me the time used, which is very nice. I can see that this is a 1-hour chunk hopper, and it has never been used. 0 seconds of this hopper has been used. So you want to look at time used. Maybe they used it for 5 minutes. Then under time used, it will say 5 minutes / 1 hour, so that they only used 5 minutes out of that hour. And you might feel a little more comfortable with purchasing it because you still have 55 minutes left on that hopper. But you want to look at that. Other thing on here that I have not covered are single-use items or limited-use items, such as the trench pickaxe. Now, some people, they will use the trench pickaxe and get it down really low. Maybe it only has 5 uses left. This one only has 91 uses left. And then they will put it up on auction house. So you want to make sure you look at how many uses there are. And again, is it worth what you're paying for? If I only need a trench pickaxe for a couple of things, I can purchase this. I will have 91 uses. They usually come with like 100 or 500 or something to that effect. He has used it a little bit and decided he didn't want it. 91 isn't horrible, depends on how big of a hole I want to dig out. But I can see how many uses are left, so that I'm not buying a trench pickaxe and getting 2 uses out of it and then I'm done. I might as well have just mined that by hand. Be sure to look at that depending on what you're buying. Okay, guys, that is the auction house here at Earth SMP Spawn. I hope that you learned something. Please try your hardest not to get scammed. If you do feel that you are scammed, make sure you get your Discord linked so that you can put a ticket in. Yelling about it in chat does not do a whole lot. And talking about it in the Discord chat does not do a whole lot. You gotta have a ticket, and particularly you gotta have proof. Maybe some pictures of, here's those leaves that are renamed, and here's the person that is selling them. And they do try to do their best to detour that here on Earth. I will give them that. I have seen them do a couple of changes. That is for the better. And doing the types and trying to deter the scams in auction house is definitely one of them. I hope that you are enjoying playing on Earth and learning stuff. Like and subscribe to my YouTube. Follow me on Twitch. I am going to be doing some giveaways. I work a lot with DadofOrion, and we do giveaways, particularly for new players. And I hope that you can join and follow me and have a wonderful day.